The first sign that something was wrong should have been the silence. Not the peaceful kind. Not the kind a tired husband enjoys after finally getting two children to bed and collapsing on the couch with cold leftovers and a muted television. This silence felt heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. I remember standing in the kitchen at almost midnight, staring at the cupcakes my daughter Emma and I had ruined 3 different times before finally getting them right. Blue frosting, tiny edible stars, her favorite colors. For Mommy's surprise party, Emma had whispered earlier that afternoon while licking frosting from her finger. My son Noah had rolled his eyes in the way 13-year-old boys do when they secretly care too much to admit it. "She's gonna cry," Noah said while helping tape silver decorations to the living room wall. Like, ugly cry. I smiled at that because he was right. Claire always cried at surprises. At least she used to. For 12 years, my wife had been the center of our home, the steady heartbeat of our family. She worked hard, traveled more than I liked, but she always came back carrying airport candy for the kids and stories about delayed flights and rude clients. 3 days earlier, she'd left for another business trip to Chicago. Or at least that's what she told us. The surprise was supposed to happen Saturday night. Her flight landed at 7. The kids and I spent the entire week preparing. Emma made a giant "Welcome Home, Mommy" sign covered in glitter that still stained the dining table no matter how much I scrubbed. Noah secretly cleaned the backyard because Claire always complained about the leaves piling near the fence. And me. I wanted to remind my wife that despite the distance lately, despite the late-night calls she rushed through, despite the way she barely looked up from her phone these past few months, she still had us. She still had me. That Friday night, I checked my phone again. No messages. I sent one anyway. "Kids can't wait to see you tomorrow. Love you." Delivered. No reply. I told myself she was sleeping. But sometime around midnight, while carrying folded laundry upstairs, I noticed her old iPad glowing faintly on her side of the bed. Claire usually took it on work trips. Strange that she forgot it. I almost ignored it. God, I wish I had. The screen lit up again. A message preview appeared. Can't stop thinking about last night already. My stomach tightened. I stood frozen in the dark bedroom while another message appeared. "Next time, no hotel. Your husband's getting suspicious." For a second, my brain refused to process the words. Like I was reading someone else's life. My pulse started hammering so loudly, I could hear it in my ears. I slowly picked up the iPad. The passcode worked instantly. Emma's birthday. I opened the messages. And my world ended. There were hundreds. Pictures. Hotel reservations. Inside jokes. Videos. 6 months. 6 entire months. A man named Daniel. I sat down on the edge of the bed because my legs physically stopped working. I don't remember breathing. I remember staring at one specific photo. Claire laughing at some rooftop bar, wine glass in hand, wearing the red dress I bought her for our anniversary. The anniversary she claimed she had to miss because of an important conference. Another message. Daniel still can't believe he has no idea. Claire, Mark notices nothing. That one hurt worse than all the others combined. Because I noticed everything. I noticed how she stopped kissing me goodbye. I noticed how she started locking her phone. I noticed how every business trip somehow got longer. I noticed. I just trusted her anyway. Downstairs, the refrigerator hummed softly while my children slept peacefully in their rooms. And upstairs, I stared at proof that the woman I loved had been living a completely different life. I don't know how long I sat there before Noah knocked lightly on the bedroom door. "Dad." I nearly jumped. He cracked the door open, sleepy-eyed. "You okay?" I quickly locked the iPad screen. "Yeah, buddy, why are you awake?" He shrugged. "Heard something." I forced a smile so painful it felt like my face might crack apart. "Just couldn't sleep." Noah nodded slowly. For a terrifying second, I wondered if he knew. Kids notice things too. He looked toward the bed. You miss Mom? The question nearly destroyed me. Yeah, I whispered. Me too. After he went back downstairs, I finally broke. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just silent tears pouring down my face while I tried not to make a sound. Because fathers don't get to fall apart whenever they want. Not when children are sleeping 10 feet away. The next morning, Emma woke me by jumping onto the couch. Mommy comes home today. I smiled because that's what parents do. Even when their hearts are bleeding out internally. The entire day became torture. Every decoration felt humiliating now. Every cupcake looked pathetic. Every excited question from Emma stabbed deeper into my chest. What if Mommy loves the surprise so much she cries forever? Noah laughed. That's not how crying works. I turned away before they could see my face. At noon, Claire finally texted. Flight delayed, might land closer to 9. I stared at the message for a long time. Then typed back. No problem, drive safe. I almost added. I know everything. But I didn't. Not yet. Because some part of me still needed to hear her explain it. Needed to believe there was some impossible misunderstanding. Around 6 that evening, Noah helped light candles while Emma danced around the living room wearing a sparkly headband she insisted her mother would love. The house smelled like pizza and vanilla frosting. Normal. Happy. Everything a family should feel. And I hated that she was about to walk into this. Because despite everything she'd done, I still loved her enough to feel sick imagining her face when she realized I knew. At 8:47 p.m., headlights appeared through the front window. Emma screamed. She's here. My daughter sprinted toward the door before I could even stand up. Noah followed behind her carrying party poppers. I stayed frozen near the kitchen. The front door opened. Surprise. Claire stepped inside carrying a suitcase and froze instantly. For one brief second, she looked genuinely happy. Then she saw me. Something changed in her expression. Tiny. Almost invisible. But I saw it. Fear. Emma wrapped around her legs. Mommy, we missed you. Claire hugged her tightly while scanning my face. You guys did all this. Her voice sounded strained. Noah grinned. Dad planned most of it. Her eyes met mine again. I smiled. Not because I wanted to. Because I needed her confused. Needed her off balance. She walked toward me slowly. Hey. Hey yourself. She kissed my cheek. The familiar perfume nearly made me nauseous. Daniel probably smelled it too. The thought almost made me lose control right there. But Emma grabbed Claire's hand excitedly. Come see the cupcakes. Claire let herself get pulled toward the kitchen, while I followed behind them feeling like a ghost, haunting my own house. Dinner was unbearable. Every laugh from Claire sounded fake now. Every touch looked rehearsed. She asked Noah about baseball practice. Helped Emma wipe pizza sauce from her shirt. Acted like a loving mother, while messages from another man still existed on the iPad upstairs. I kept waiting for guilt to crack her expression. It never did. That terrified me most. How normal she seemed. After cake, Emma climbed into Claire's lap. Best surprise ever. Claire smiled. The best. Then her eyes flicked toward me again. She knew something was wrong. I could see it growing inside her. That instinct people get when danger is close. Around 10, the kids finally went upstairs. Emma hugged Claire tightly. No more trips for a while, okay? Claire kissed her forehead. I'll try. The second their bedroom doors closed, silence swallowed the house. Claire slowly set down her wine glass. What's going on? I leaned against the kitchen counter. What do you mean? Marked. She stared carefully at me. You've barely looked at me. I laughed softly. That laugh sounded completely unfamiliar, even to me. Interesting thing to notice. Her face tightened slightly. Okay. I reached into my pocket and placed her iPad on the counter between us. The color drained from her face instantly. There it was. The truth. No denial yet. No confusion. Just pure panic. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, "You went through my messages." The question hit me like gasoline on fire. "That's your first concern." Claire swallowed hard. "Marked. How long?" She closed her eyes briefly. "Please don't do this tonight." I stared at her in disbelief. "Tonight?" My voice rose for the first time. "You're worried about tonight. The kids are upstairs. That didn't stop you from screwing another man for 6 months. Lower your voice." I stepped closer. "No." Claire crossed her arms tightly like she was cold. "It's not what you think." I laughed again. This time bitter. "There are pictures, Claire." Tears welled in her eyes instantly. Weaponized tears. I used to crumble every time she cried. "Not anymore." "It just happened," she whispered. 6 months accidentally happened." She looked away. And that hurt more than if she'd screamed. Because she couldn't even look me in the eye anymore. I felt something inside me finally snap. "Did you love him?" Silence. That silence answered everything. My chest physically hurt. Claire started crying harder. "I never wanted to hurt you." I shook my head slowly. "That's the problem." "What?" "You did this because you stopped thinking about me at all." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because she knew I was right. I walked toward the sink, trying desperately to steady myself. "You know what's insane?" I said quietly. "I was actually planning another honeymoon." Claire's crying stopped briefly. "What?" "Mexico, I already booked it." Her face collapsed. I reached into the drawer and tossed printed reservations onto the counter beside the iPad. "I thought maybe we just needed time together again." She covered her mouth. And suddenly I saw it. Not guilt over cheating. Guilt because she got caught. There's a difference. People who truly regret betrayal confess before discovery. Everything afterward is damage control. Claire stepped toward me carefully. "Mark, please." Did he know about us? She hesitated too long. My stomach dropped further somehow. "Oh my God. He knew we were struggling. He knew you were married." She started crying again. I was confused. "No," I snapped, "you were selfish." The word echoed through the kitchen. Upstairs, I heard movement. Probably Noah awake again. Claire heard it too. Her face filled with terror. "Please don't let the kids hear this." I stared at her. For the first time all night, anger burned hotter than heartbreak. "You should have thought about them before climbing into hotel beds." "Stop." "No. Please." "Did you sleep with him during our anniversary trip?" She froze. And that silence answered another question I never wanted answered. I backed away from her, immediately, like touching distance itself made me sick. Claire started shaking. "Mark." I couldn't even look at her anymore. I grabbed my keys from the counter. "Where are you going?" "Away from you." "You can't leave like this." I turned toward her slowly. "Watch me." She followed me to the front door. "Please don't tell the kids." I stopped walking. That sentence. That selfish, terrified sentence. "Not to." "Please forgive me." "Not to." "Please let's fix this." "Only." "Please don't tell the kids." Because protecting her image still mattered more. I opened the front door. Cold night air rushed inside. "You should start thinking about how to explain why Dad doesn't sleep here anymore." Then I walked out. I sat in my truck for nearly an hour, parked 3 streets away. Hands shaking on the steering wheel. I kept seeing flashes of our life together. Claire dancing barefoot in our first apartment. Claire holding newborn Noah while crying from happiness. Claire asleep against my shoulder during road trips. 12 years. Destroyed by 6 months. Maybe less. Because affairs don't start physically first. They start emotionally. With secrets. Complaints. Distance. Little betrayals growing quietly in the dark. My phone buzzed repeatedly. Claire calling. Again. 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 I ignored every single one. Then a text appeared. Please come home, we need to talk. Home. The word no longer felt real. Another message. I love you. I stared at it for a long time. Then finally replied. You loved me enough to destroy our children's family. No answer came after that. Around midnight, I returned quietly. Not for her. For Noah and Emma. The house was dark except for the kitchen light. Claire sat alone at the table, still wearing the same clothes. Mascara streaked beneath her eyes. She looked up immediately when I entered. I'm sleeping downstairs, I said flatly. She nodded silently. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she whispered, I do love you. I looked at her carefully. Maybe part of her believed that. Maybe people convince themselves love can survive anything. But real love protects. Real love considers consequences. Real love doesn't laugh in rooftop bars while texting another man about your husband being clueless. I walked past her toward the hallway. Then stopped. One day Emma's gonna marry someone. Claire lowered her head immediately. And if that man cheats on her, I continued quietly, I hope she never thinks she deserves to stay. Claire started crying again. But I kept walking. Because if I stayed another second, I might completely break apart. And upstairs, 2 children still believed their mother and father were forever. The next morning felt unreal. Like waking up inside someone else's nightmare. I barely slept on the downstairs couch. Every creak of the house sounded different now. Every familiar object looked contaminated somehow. The framed family photos above the fireplace suddenly felt like evidence instead of memories. At 6:30, I heard Claire moving around upstairs. Closet doors opening. Bathroom sink running. Normal sounds. That was the strangest part. The world keeps moving after betrayal. Coffee still brews. Kids still need breakfast. The sun still rises. Meanwhile, your entire life has exploded internally. I sat there staring at the ceiling while my chest felt hollowed out. A few minutes later, Noah came downstairs wearing basketball shorts and earbuds around his neck. He stopped the second he saw me on the couch. You sleep down here. I forced myself upright. Yeah, Mom was exhausted from the trip. He studied me carefully. Too carefully. Teenagers notice more than adults think. You okay? Of course. The lie tasted bitter. Noah nodded slowly, but didn't look convinced. Then Emma came flying downstairs like a tornado of energy. Pancakes. For one beautiful, painful second, life felt normal again. Claire entered the kitchen moments later. Her eyes immediately found mine. Red. Swollen. Empty. She looked like she hadn't slept at all either. Emma wrapped herself around Claire instantly. Mommy, can we watch movies tonight? Claire kissed the top of her head. Maybe, baby. Her voice cracked slightly. Emma didn't notice. But Noah did. He looked between both of us while grabbing orange juice from the fridge. The silence between Claire and me was becoming visible. During breakfast, Claire tried acting normal. Too normal. How was baseball practice this week? Noah shrugged. Fine. Did coach finally decide positions? Yeah. What you get? Shortstop. Claire smiled brightly. That's amazing. Normally Noah would have grinned proudly. Instead, he just nodded while eating pancakes. Watching my son pull away from her before he even knew the truth nearly destroyed me. After breakfast, Claire followed me into the laundry room while the kids argued over cartoons in the living room. We need to talk. I kept folding towels. There's nothing left to discuss. That's not true. I laughed quietly. Really, because it feels pretty complete to me. Marked. I finally looked at her. You lied to our children. Pain flashed across her face. I know. You kissed them goodbye before leaving to sleep with another man. Please stop saying it like that. How else should I say it? Claire crossed her arms tightly. I made a mistake. I stared at her in disbelief. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is backing into a mailbox. You carried on a relationship for half a year. Tears filled her eyes again. I was unhappy. That sentence hit me like a slap. Unhappy. She nodded weakly. You stopped talking to me. We barely connected anymore. I stepped closer slowly. So instead of telling your husband you were unhappy, you found another man. It wasn't planned. I shook my head. Do you know what's incredible? Even now, you still refuse to fully own it. Her face crumbled. I am owning it. No, you keep explaining it. Silence. Because she knew I was right. People desperate to justify betrayal always talk about what was missing. Rarely about what they destroyed. Claire lowered her voice. I ended it. I froze. What? With Daniel. I stared at her. When? 2 weeks ago. I almost laughed again. Am I supposed to feel grateful? No. Because honestly, it sounds like he dumped you first. That one landed. Hard. She looked away immediately. And suddenly I knew. Jesus Christ. I leaned back against the dryer, trying to process it. He ended it. Claire's silence confirmed everything. The realization changed something inside me instantly. This wasn't a woman overwhelmed by guilt who returned to save her marriage. This was a woman whose affair collapsed before she got caught. My chest burned with humiliation. You were never going to tell me. She started crying harder. I didn't know how. You weren't going to tell me. I was trying to fix us first. After your boyfriend left. Stop calling him that. Why, I snapped, that's what he was. The sound of Emma, laughing in the next room, nearly broke me in half. Children laughing while their family quietly disintegrates. Claire wiped tears from her face shakily. I know you hate me. I looked at her for a long moment. The terrifying thing was, I didn't. Not completely. I hated what she did. I hated what she became. I hated how deeply she wounded me. But part of me still loved her anyway. And that made everything worse. You should go stay with your sister for a while, I said quietly. Her face immediately filled with panic. You want me to leave? I can't breathe around you right now. What about the kids? We'll tell them you need space. Claire shook her head desperately. No, please don't do that. Then what do you want, Claire? I want to fix this. I stared at her. You had 6 months to think about fixing this. No answer came. That afternoon, I took Noah to baseball practice while Claire stayed home with Emma. The drive was painfully quiet. Finally, Noah pulled one earbud out. You and Mom fighting. The question hit like a knife. I kept my eyes on the road. Why would you ask that? You guys are weird. Kids always know. Noah stared out the window. She cries a lot lately. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. How long have you noticed that? He shrugged. Few months. Few months. While she was sneaking around with another man. My son noticed sadness in her before I even realized betrayal existed. I suddenly felt like the biggest idiot alive. Noah looked back at me carefully. You guys getting divorced? The word nearly stopped my heart. Noah. It's okay if you are. No. No, it was. Not for him. Not for Emma. Not for me. I swallowed hard. We're just having adult problems. He nodded slowly. Then quietly said, Mom,'s gone a lot. I glanced at him. His face stayed turned toward the window. I know. She used to be happier here. That sentence haunted me the rest of the day. Because maybe he was right. Maybe somewhere along the line, Claire stopped being happy with us. And I never saw it. Or maybe I saw it and convinced myself marriage just gets harder with time. That night after the kids went to bed, Claire sat across from me at the dining table. No wine. No phones. No distractions. Just 2 exhausted people staring at the ruins of their marriage. I met him at a conference in Denver, she whispered. I closed my eyes briefly. I didn't want details, but I needed truth now. All of it. At first we just talked, then texting, then. She stopped. I finished it for her. Then you decided your family wasn't enough. Tears rolled down her face again. That's not fair. I laughed bitterly. Fair? Claire rubbed trembling hands together. I felt invisible. The sentence lingered heavily between us. And for the first time since discovering everything, I listened. Not because it excused her. Nothing could. But because marriages rarely collapse in one moment. They erode slowly. Quietly. Painfully. You stopped touching me, she whispered. Stopped asking about my days. We became roommates. I stared down at the table. Part of me wanted to reject every word instantly. But another part remembered. Late nights working overtime. Falling asleep during movies. Choosing routine over connection. Still, millions of unhappy spouses don't cheat. I was lonely too, I said quietly. Claire looked up. But I stayed loyal anyway. That silenced her completely. After a long pause, she whispered, I hate myself for this. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But betrayal changes the way you hear everything. Every apology sounds suspicious. Every tear feels strategic. Did you love him? Claire hesitated. That hesitation crushed something else inside me. I thought I did, she admitted softly. The honesty hurt more than another lie. I stood up immediately and walked toward the sink. Because hearing your wife confess emotional attachment to another man physically changes you. Your body reacts before your brain does. I felt nauseous. I ended it because I realized it wasn't real, Claire continued quietly. It was fantasy, escape. I stared out the dark kitchen window. And what are we? Silence. Long silence. Finally. Real. I almost broke right there. Because real life is laundry and bills and exhausted mornings and forgotten date nights and children needing rides to practice. Fantasy is hotel rooms and secret texts and stolen weekends. Fantasy doesn't survive reality. Families are built inside reality. 3 days later, Claire moved into her sister Rachel's guest room. Telling the kids was hell. Absolute hell. We just need a little space, Claire explained, while Emma's eyes filled instantly with tears. Did I do something bad? Emma whispered. That question shattered all of us. Claire immediately grabbed her. No, baby, never. Emma cried into her shoulder. Then why can't Mommy stay home? Claire looked toward me helplessly. Because there's no child-friendly explanation for infidelity. No clean way to tell your daughter her mother broke the foundation beneath her feet. Noah handled it differently. Quiet. Withdrawn. Watching everything. After Claire left with 2 suitcases in the trunk, Emma cried herself to sleep on my chest. I stayed awake almost the entire night holding her, thinking about how one selfish decision spreads pain through every innocent person nearby. The following week became survival mode. School lunches, homework, laundry, soccer pickups, pretending I wasn't falling apart internally. Meanwhile, Claire texted constantly. How are the kids? Did Emma eat dinner? Can I call Noah? Sometimes practical, sometimes emotional. I miss you. I know I don't deserve another chance. I'm trying not to lose hope. I rarely answered anything beyond logistics, because every time my anger softened slightly, I remembered the messages. Your husband notices nothing. That sentence lived inside my head permanently now. One Friday afternoon, I arrived early at Noah's practice. I spotted him sitting alone in the bleachers instead of warming up. You okay? He shrugged without looking at me. Coach says I'm distracted. I sat beside him quietly. After a long silence, Noah finally asked, Mom cheating on you? The world stopped. Literally stopped. I stared at my 13-year-old son while ice flooded through my veins. What? He finally looked at me. I heard you guys. My chest tightened painfully. How much did you hear? Enough. God. God, no. He looked down at his hands. I saw her texting someone before, too. I couldn't breathe. When? Months ago. The betrayal suddenly expanded even further. My son carried this suspicion alone for months. Noah's voice cracked slightly. Was it my fault? I grabbed his shoulder immediately. No, absolutely not. You guys stopped being happy after baseball tournaments started, and Emma got busier and... Listen to me. I turned him toward me firmly. This has nothing to do with you. Tears filled his eyes instantly, though he tried hiding them. Then why would she do it? There it was. The impossible question. Why does someone destroy people they claim to love? I still didn't fully understand myself. Adults are complicated, I said quietly. Noah laughed bitterly through tears. That's a dumb answer. Yeah, I admitted, it is. For several moments, we sat silently together. Then Noah whispered something that completely broke me. Are you gonna leave too? I pulled him into a hug before he could see me crying. No. His shoulders shook against me. You promise? I promise. That night after the kids slept, I sat alone in the backyard, staring at old family photos on my phone. Disney trips. Christmas mornings. Beach vacations. Every smile felt suspicious now. I hated that. I hated what betrayal does to memory. Claire called around 11. I almost ignored it, but answered anyway. Hello. Her voice sounded fragile immediately. How's Noah? I closed my eyes. He knows. Silence. Then quiet sobbing. Oh God. He heard us fighting. Claire cried harder. This is all my fault. For the first time since everything exploded, I heard genuine devastation in her voice. Not fear for herself. Pain for our children. And somehow that hurt even worse. He asked if I was leaving too, I whispered. Claire broke down completely on the phone. I ruined them. The honesty in that sentence finally sounded real. Raw. Unfiltered. I leaned back in the patio chair exhausted. You ruined us. She cried quietly for a while. Then whispered. I'll spend the rest of my life regretting this. I believed her. The tragedy was that regret changes nothing. Around midnight, Claire asked softly, Do you miss me at all? I stared up at the dark sky. The truthful answer terrified me. Yes. She started crying again. Because love doesn't disappear immediately after betrayal. Sometimes it stays long enough to torture you. I miss you too, she whispered. And for one dangerous moment, I almost wanted to tell her to come home. Almost. Then I remembered another man touching my wife while my children slept believing their family was safe. And the moment passed. Before hanging up, Claire whispered one final thing. Daniel's wife left him. I froze. What? She found out too. A strange silence settled over me. Somewhere out there another family shattered exactly like ours. Another husband sitting, awake at night, trying to understand how love turned into deceit. Another child asking impossible questions. Pain multiplying outward like cracks through glass. What happened to him? I asked quietly. Claire's voice sounded empty. He lost everything. After the call ended, I sat alone outside for a long time thinking about consequences. Not revenge. Not karma. Consequences. Because affairs feel exciting right, until reality arrives carrying broken children and destroyed trust and empty homes behind it. And suddenly, nobody wins. Not even the people who thought they were escaping unhappiness. Especially them, winter arrived quietly that year. The leaves disappeared first. Then the warmth. Then whatever remained of the life Claire and I used to know. 3 months passed after she moved out. 3 long, painful months of routines, pretending to be stability. Every morning I woke up before the kids, packed lunches, checked homework, signed permission slips, and learned how to braid Emma's hair through frustrated YouTube tutorials at 6 in the morning. Every night I sat alone after they slept, staring at the television without actually watching anything. The silence became part of me. Claire visited often. Too often for healing. Not enough for normalcy. Some days she came over for dinner and helped Emma with spelling words while Noah barely looked at her from across the table. Other days she picked the kids up for movies or ice cream and brought them home with forced smiles and red eyes. The hardest part wasn't the anger anymore. It was watching our children slowly adapt to pain they never deserved. Children normalize heartbreak frighteningly fast. Emma stopped asking when Mommy was moving back home. Noah stopped mentioning family trips altogether. And me. I became someone I barely recognized. Quieter. Older. Tired all the time. One Friday evening in December, Noah stayed after practice to help clean equipment. I sat in the truck waiting while snow dusted lightly across the windshield. When he finally climbed inside, he looked exhausted. Coach says scouts might come next season. I smiled genuinely for the first time all day. That's huge. He shrugged, trying to hide excitement. Maybe. As I pulled onto the road, Noah suddenly asked, "You ever gonna date again?" The question startled me so badly, I nearly missed the stop sign. What? I'm just asking. I glanced over at him. At 13, he suddenly looked older than he should have. Kids age fast after family trauma. I don't know, I admitted. Noah stared out the window. I hope you do eventually. Why? He shrugged. Because Mom broke your heart. The directness hit hard. Children don't dance around truth forever. And I don't want her ruining the rest of your life too. I swallowed hard. There it was again. That protective instinct children develop when they see one parent hurting. It broke me every single time. She's still your mother, I said quietly. I know. But his voice carried disappointment now. Not rage. Not hatred. Something sadder. Disillusionment. The dangerous thing about betrayal isn't only losing trust in a spouse. It's watching your children lose innocence about love itself. That night after Noah went upstairs, I found Emma asleep on the couch clutching one of Claire's old hoodies. I carefully carried her toward bed. Half asleep, she mumbled softly against my shoulder. Did Mommy stop loving us? I stopped walking. Every muscle in my body froze. No, baby, I whispered immediately. Then why doesn't she stay? I closed my eyes. Because how do you explain selfishness to a child without destroying their ability to trust people? She made a bad choice, I said softly. Emma opened sleepy eyes. Like when I lied about breaking your coffee mug. A painful smile touched my face. Kind of. Did you forgive me? My throat tightened instantly. Yes. Emma rested her head against my shoulder again. Then you should forgive Mommy too. Children think forgiveness works like bandages. Simple. Immediate. Healing. I tucked her into bed and sat beside her long after she fell asleep. Thinking about forgiveness. Thinking about Claire. Thinking about the terrifying possibility that despite everything, I still loved my wife. Not in the same blind way as before. That version of love died the night I opened her iPad. But something remained. Something bruised and exhausted and deeply wounded. Christmas arrived colder than usual. Claire came over Christmas morning. The kids deserved at least that much. For a few hours, we pretended. Coffee. Presents. Christmas music. Emma squealing over a dollhouse. Noah trying too hard to act uninterested in the expensive baseball glove Claire bought him. Normal. Artificial normal. But halfway through breakfast, Emma innocently asked, "Can Mommy stay all day?" The room went silent instantly. Claire looked down at her coffee cup. Noah stared at the floor. And I realized this was the true punishment of betrayal. Not divorce papers. Not loneliness. Not ruined reputations. This. These tiny moments where children keep reaching for a version of home that no longer exists. Claire quietly answered, "I can stay until dinner." Emma smiled brightly. "Yay." But Noah abruptly stood up from the table. "I'm going outside." Claire's face fell immediately. "I got you that glove you wanted." "I know. You do like it." Noah shrugged without meeting her eyes. "It's fine." Then he walked out into the snow. Claire looked like someone physically struck her. For several seconds, she stared toward the back door. Then quietly whispered, "He hates me." I shook my head slowly. "No. What else would you call this?" I looked at her carefully. "He's hurt." Claire started crying silently. And for once, I didn't feel satisfaction seeing her pain. Only exhaustion. That afternoon, I found Noah alone, behind the garage throwing baseballs against the wall aggressively. Snow covered the grass around him. "You okay?" He kept throwing. She cried again. I leaned against the fence quietly. "She's trying." Noah caught the ball hard. Too late. I studied my son carefully. Anger looked strange on him. Too heavy for his age. "She's still your mom," I said again. "I know." "Then don't make yourself carry this forever." He finally looked at me. "You still love her, don't you?" The question knocked the air from my lungs. I didn't answer immediately. Because lies felt pointless now. Finally, I admitted softly, "Part of me does." Noah stared at the snow. "I don't understand how." Neither did I. That was the worst part. Love survives things pride cannot comprehend. Months earlier, I would have sworn cheating was an instant deal breaker. Clean. Final. Simple. Reality wasn't simple. Reality was 12 years of memories refusing to disappear. Reality was still knowing exactly how Claire took her coffee. Reality was hearing her laugh downstairs Christmas morning and feeling homesick while standing inside your own house. By February, Claire and I started attending counseling. Not because reconciliation was guaranteed. Because after 12 years and 2 children, ending things deserved at least one honest attempt. The first session was brutal. The therapist, Dr. Levin, listened quietly while Claire explained the affair through tears. Then he turned toward me. "What hurts most?" I laughed bitterly. "How much time do you have?" But after a long silence, the truth came out. She made me feel replaceable. Claire immediately started crying harder. Dr. Levin nodded thoughtfully. Infidelity often creates identity trauma, not just heartbreak. Identity trauma. The phrase stuck with me. Because betrayal changes how you see yourself. Was I boring? Unlovable? Blind? Weak? Every cheated spouse eventually interrogates themselves. Claire spoke quietly through tears. "You weren't replaceable." I looked at her. "That's exactly what I was." "No. You chose someone else." "I chose escape," she whispered. Dr. Levin leaned forward slightly. "And now?" Claire looked directly at me for the first time in weeks. "Now I see what I destroyed." For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Dr. Levin asked the question I'd secretly feared most. "Mark, if trust could eventually be rebuilt, would you want this marriage?" I couldn't answer immediately. Because the honest answer terrified me. "Yes," I whispered finally. Claire broke down completely. Not because she won. Because she realized I still loved her despite everything she'd done. And somehow that made her guilt even heavier. Healing didn't happen quickly after that. There were setbacks. Terrible ones. Random triggers destroyed entire days. Hotel commercials. Business trips and movies. Unknown phone numbers lighting Claire's screen. Some nights rage returned suddenly and violently. One evening in March, Claire came over to help Emma finish a school project. I walked into the kitchen and saw Claire laughing softly while cutting construction paper beside our daughter. The image looked so normal. So familiar. Then my brain suddenly pictured her laughing with Daniel the same way. The emotional whiplash hit instantly. I walked straight back outside before either of them noticed. Claire followed me minutes later. What happened? I stared at the dark backyard. I hate that I still picture him. She went silent. I'll spend years trying not to, I admitted quietly. Claire's eyes filled immediately. I know. No, you don't. She lowered her head. You're right. I looked at her then. Really looked at her. Not the woman from our wedding photos. Not the mother of my children. Just a flawed human being standing in front of consequences she could never fully undo. I need honesty from you forever now, I said quietly. You'll have it. No more protecting my feelings, no more half-truths, no more hiding. Claire nodded instantly. I swear. And if you ever feel lonely again, I talk to you. The answer came immediately this time. No hesitation. No excuses. Just truth. Spring arrived slowly. And with it came something fragile. Not trust. Trust rebuilds painfully slow. But possibility. One Saturday afternoon, Emma insisted we all attend her school carnival together. The four of us walked through crowded booths eating funnel cake, while live music played nearby. For the first time in nearly a year, we looked like a family again. Noah even laughed when Claire accidentally lost at a water gun game and sprayed herself in the face. The sound stunned all of us, because genuine laughter had become rare. Later that evening, while the kids ran ahead toward the parking lot, Claire and I walked several steps behind them. Sunset painted everything gold and orange. Claire glanced toward the children quietly. They're healing. I nodded. So are we. She looked at me carefully then. Are we? I thought about the question honestly. The affair would never disappear. Neither would the damage. There would always be before and after. But maybe healing wasn't about erasing pain. Maybe it was about learning whether love could survive truth. I don't know yet, I admitted. Claire accepted the answer without complaint. Because consequences had finally taught her patience. As we reached the car, Emma grabbed both our hands excitedly. Family selfie. Before either of us could react, she snapped a blurry photo of all four of us squeezed together, while Noah groaned dramatically in the background. Emma examined it proudly. We look happy again. The innocence in her voice nearly destroyed me. Claire looked down quickly to hide tears. But I saw them anyway. That night after the kids fell asleep, Claire lingered near the front door preparing to leave. I meant what I said in therapy, she whispered. About what? You weren't replaceable. I studied her quietly. Then asked the question that still haunted me after all these months. Why him? Claire closed her eyes briefly. Because he met me at the exact moment I stopped feeling seen. The honesty hurt. But it mattered. And now, I asked. She looked directly at me. Now I understand being seen means nothing if the person beside you isn't the one who built your life. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, carefully, I stepped closer. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Just closeness. Claire looked terrified to even breathe. I don't know if I can ever love you the same way again, I admitted quietly. Fresh tears filled her eyes. I know. But maybe, I paused, maybe love isn't supposed to stay the same forever. Claire cried silently. Not dramatic. Not manipulative. Just human. And standing there in the quiet hallway of the house we once nearly destroyed, I finally understood something important about betrayal. Sometimes marriages end with cheating. Sometimes they survive. But either way, the old relationship dies. Completely. What comes afterward isn't restoration. It's rebuilding from ashes. Slow. Painful. Uncertain. And only possible if both people finally tell the truth. Claire reached for the door carefully. I'll see you tomorrow. I looked upstairs toward the rooms where our children slept peacefully. Then back at the woman who broke my heart. And maybe, slowly, was trying to help rebuild it too. Yeah, I said softly. Tomorrow.